the big question is, you say you want to move faster, and that's clear in the restructuring. So I wonder what faster means. Is that weeks? Is it months? Give us some perspective on the urgency with that.
I'm not sure one can measure it in weeks or months. I mean, because the duration and the line of travel of this pandemic, of this crisis, is not a straight line, and its duration is unknown. So what the speed needs to be about is our ability to adapt, be flexible, adapt, and be agile in the face of change. I mean, clearly the second quarter, as you just highlighted, was very negative for us, and we were able to adapt so that we were much better by June than we had been in April. We got better through the third quarter, and so our focus is on maintaining the flexibility to be able to adapt to the uncertainty ahead of us for the next few quarters, as we, at the same time, build a better business and a better business system such that we are stronger and better and a company more set up for growth once this is all passed.
James, you talk about the uncertainty. Thanks for your time today, by the way. What do you need to see to reinstate guidance?
I think guidance is about some degree of projectability of the direction of travel. As we've talked about on previous earnings calls and this one, one of the kind of, the non-normal factors was the degree of lockdown. So I think as we start to see enough adaptation, either the management of the pandemic or the rollouts of vaccines or some combination of the two, such that we can see visibility to the business trends and not have to lay over this kind of non-normal factor, the degree of lockdown. I think that will help provide greater visibility. Clearly, we'll be looking when we do our fourth quarter call to try and look out for 2021, the whole year. But it is that degree of visibility of this intersection between what we're used to factoring in versus the overlay of what can be lockdowns that could go and then come back again and maybe need to go again. And that's, I think, the biggest factor here.
Can you give me an idea of how the process works of if you have a new product or idea, how fast can it come to market? And similarly, when you want to cut a product and say, guys, it's not selling, we got to adjust, how quickly you can get it off?
I mean, when you want to get a product off, that in the second quarter, when we really needed to focus the supply chain to make continuity, you can just stop manufacturing them. Now, in a normal circumstance, normal course of business, clearly you want to also recapture for your existing products or your new products the shelf space in the retailers and through the distribution chain for those new products. So that can happen in a matter of months. I mean, if we take the latest launch we made, which was Topo Chico Hard Seltzer, which has just started in some of the Latin American cities, that was a 3-month project from end to end. So the ability to pivot and to bring new global projects to bear, is a rapid process once one decides decisively which way you want to go. So the ability of the system to react is substantial. It is a big physical system, but the ability to act is substantial, whether that's the investments in marketing, launching of products, or pruning of SKUs so that we can be the best system for growth that we can be.
James, you've launched a voluntary redundancy scheme. Can you give me an idea of how much slimmer this business will be in terms of headcount this time next year?
Look, we have launched a voluntary scheme that started in the US and a number of our other international markets that have not yet completed. There's the places like Europe where there's ongoing consultation processes, so the voluntary piece hasn't finished yet. We very much in this redesign of the organization are focused on setting ourselves up for the future, for success, and will have completed the design by the end of this year. So we're not giving out a number on how we see the exact shape of the employee base. We've got work left to do. We took a very conscious decision, particularly in the disconnected kind of pandemic time with a lot of remote working, to do the design and do the process much more in the open with the employees, to optimize the design so people could see where we're going. And we haven't reached the end of the process, so we have not got a final number, but we are confident that this design, this reorganization is going to make us stronger, is going to help us grow, And we believe the voluntary programs certainly allow people to have a participation in making the decisions that were right for themselves as well.
So to that, when you're having those conversations, do you have an idea of what region is going to provide the most growth for you, or kind of what products per what region? What's that visibility?
I mean, in the short term, not so much, but in the medium and long term, clearly we are looking for the emerging markets to produce more volumetric contribution to the overall algorithm of growth, and some of the more developed markets, it'll be a balance of volume and price. And across the categories, we see actually good opportunities for growth across the categories. Clearly, in places like sparkling beverages, where we have such a fabulous brand like Coke, the percentage growth might be less than some of the other categories, but there's still tremendous growth opportunity for our sparkling brands, including Coke. And Coke grew in the third quarter despite everything, and we see great opportunities in the dairy and the juice and the plant and in the teas and the coffees and in the hydration and sports drink. There are substantive opportunities to grow, which is why we think what we're doing, not just the reorganization, but the refocusing of the marketing, the pruning of the portfolio, is really what's setting us up to perform post-crisis.
I've been to Coke World. You've got a lot of product. Let's talk a bit about what's happening here in Europe. We are seeing lockdowns increasing, James. We are seeing circuit breakers. The hospitality sector is taking it really, really hard. How is Europe performing right now with this uncertainty? What's happening with Costa Coffee?
Yeah, I mean, clearly the away from home channels are under pressure in Europe in general, and that's affecting all our brands and all our categories. And as we go into the winter, I think we had some expectation that there would be an increase in cases and potentially increase in restrictions, and as you say, that's what we're starting to see across Europe. As it relates to Costa, the darkest day was April, when there was the full national lockdowns, and now virtually all of our stores are open again, and they've been adapted to allow for digital ordering, for takeaway, for delivery, for much more ability to operate even within some of the restrictions. And on the positive side, the Costa Express machines, I'm sure you're familiar with them, they have done fantastically. They have been growing well ahead of last year all the way through this crisis. So it's about managing which channels and which locations we can serve the coffee through. But we've been bouncing back, and I think with the adaptations, we'll be able to weather through the upcoming restrictions in Q4 and Q1.